having a little lunch because you know I like to be always eating. And Ralph has to pay for lunch because his luggage was heavier than mine. Arrived without incident in my comfort level of 2 hours before the flight. Here we go. Okay, darling?
Are you filming?
I am, and this is the beginning of our very excellent first Italian adventure. We have a few minutes to spare before going down to the suitcase. Nice, my Valium kicked in.
Buongiorno, principessa.
Packing went reasonably well. We're still married.
Come va?
Yucky.
Come sta, signorina?
Yucky, we're leaving you. You're going to be so depressed. But Annie's going to come and take care of you every day and give you your kitty crack. Okay. I know. Okay, so we'll see you later. We'll check in from the airport or whatever. Okay, darling?
Are you filming?
I am, and this is the beginning of our very excellent first Italian adventure. We have a few minutes to spare before going down to the suitcase. Nice, my Valium kicked in.
Buongiorno, principessa.
Packing went reasonably well. We're still married.
Come va?
Yucky.
Come sta, signorina?
Yucky, we're leaving you. You're going to be so depressed. But Annie's going to come and take care of you every day and give you your kitty crack. Okay. I know. Okay, so we'll see you later. We'll check in from the airport or whatever. Just checked at the gate. It's a completely full flight, so no chance that excellent husband and I can have a whole row to ourselves. That's okay. This is going to be a super adventure. There's that cute guy again. I think he's following me. Well, here we are getting on another plane. I certainly hope this is the one to Nice. Little stopover in Paris for lunch at Charles de Gaulle. And here we go again. Kind of a rough flight over, not a lot of sleep, but life is good. Well, here we are at the rental car, and not nearly the massive sight we were expecting, and no sign of Joel and Claudia, and we have no cell phones. Oh boy. But on the other hand, it's sunny. Okay, darling?
Are you filming?
I am, and this is the beginning of our very excellent first Italian adventure. We have a few minutes to spare before going down to the suitcase. Nice, my Valium kicked in.
Buongiorno, principessa.
Packing went reasonably well. We're still married.
Come va?
Yucky.
Come sta, signorina?
Yucky, we're leaving you. You're going to be so depressed. But Annie's going to come and take care of you every day and give you your kitty crack. Okay. I know. Okay, so we'll see you later. We'll check in from the airport or whatever. Okay, darling?
Are you filming?
I am, and this is the beginning of our very excellent first Italian adventure. We have a few minutes to spare before going down to the suitcase. Nice, my Valium kicked in.
Buongiorno, principessa.
Packing went reasonably well. We're still married.
Come va?
Yucky.
Come sta, signorina?
Yucky, we're leaving you. You're going to be so depressed. But Annie's going to come and take care of you every day and give you your kitty crack. Okay. I know. Okay, so we'll see you later. We'll check in from the airport or whatever. Okay, darling?
Are you filming?
I am, and this is the beginning of our very excellent first Italian adventure. We have a few minutes to spare before going down to the suitcase. Nice, my Valium kicked in.
Buongiorno, principessa.
Packing went reasonably well. We're still married.
Come va?
Yucky.
Come sta, signorina?
Yucky, we're leaving you. You're going to be so depressed. But Annie's going to come and take care of you every day and give you your kitty crack. Okay. I know. Okay, so we'll see you later. We'll check in from the airport or whatever. I think we have solved the issue of lack of communication. I think we have found the Taxels.
Well, we've been found.
We have like no phone.
Where did you park?
Here,
Follow up this one.
Over to the right.
yeah, our car is white.
Okay.
It was so easy to find the place. Was it? Here we are,
La famiglia.
our first night.
Dove,
We are in
Petre Focai? How do we find this damn place?
Italy. Where we are in Italy.
What's the date?
We made it.
And we
We're
are
all safe,
in.
and we're in Petra.
We're safe.
We're in
But what's
May the either 10th or 11th. I'm
the
not
11th?
May 11th.
I know it's the 11th.
Pietro
I'm trying to think
Pietro.
about where we are.
Scusi?
Outside of San
Pietre
Gimignano.
Pietre,
Pietre
Pietre,
Pietre.
Focai.
Focaie.
Pietre Focai.
Grazie.
Here, sweetie. Get her too.
Ciao.
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 Cenare.
What does Cenare mean?
I can see that getting out of the house is going to be the challenge of the trip, but look at this gorgeous scenery. I hope it's... This is Paolo's vegetable garden, built at waist height so that no stooping. After a slight walk up the steps, this is our pool, tennis court in the background, vineyards in the background. Oh my gracious.
We are now in the town of Volterra, approximately 20 kilometers from San Gimignano. It's famous for its alabaster and for its Etruscan ruins and its famous arch, which is where we're just about to go to. As we look out over the countryside, we see not a lot of forests. You could just imagine the Romans marching through here, trying to climb up this hill, God forbid. Getting the laundry.
Well, it's a little concerning. Ralph and Joel are interested in the swords.
Most famous site is its Etruscan arch, built of massive volcanic tuff stones in the 4th century BC. Volterra's original wall was 4 miles around, twice the size of the wall that encircles it today. With 25,000 people, Volterra was a key Etruscan trade center, one of 12 leading towns that made up the Etruscan Dodecapolis, a league of Etruscan cities. The 3 seriously eroded heads, dating from the 1st century BC, which we can't see from here,
Because maybe we're filming the wrong arch.
right, show what happens. No, this is
We're
it.
on the inside.
Show what happens when you leave something outside for 2,000 years.
Photograph it from
The
other
newer
side.
stones are part of the 13th century wall, which incorporated parts of the much older Etruscan wall. A plaque just outside remembers June 30, 1944, the night the Nazi forces were planning to blow up the arch to slow the Allied advance. To save the treasured landmark, Volterrans ripped up the stones that paved Via Porta all'Arco
Okay.
and plugged the gate, managing to convince the Nazi commander that there was no need to blow up the arch. Today, all the stones are back in their places, and like silent heroes, they welcome you through the oldest standing Etruscan gate into Volterra.
This is actually the better view of the arch. We came in from the back end.
The 3 seriously eroded heads, dating from 1st century BC.
Wow.
Show what happens when you leave something outside for 2,000 years.
It's the Voltare Farmers Market. We just got some biscotte, little formaggio. plenty of prosciutto. Some handsome Americans. Hey, Mr. Signor Americano.
Good.
Buone? Buono?
Bene.
No.
Bene.
Buying a little formaggio. Okay.
Recording this for posterity.
Yes. See?
See?
We're actually in the town of San Gimignano, which reminds me of Siena, but maybe that's how all the old Italian towns are. Let's see. Famous for its tower. We're on our way to dinner. So far, so whoops. One. Okay, everybody.
Your left, we're gonna have to ask again.
Okay, we're now in the main square of San Gimignano.
We are entering the square.
Not quite knowing where we're going for dinner. There we go. Great.
An organization. That doesn't mean they actually were the ones. I don't remember the specifics. Yeah, we were here when we were here. I don't.
Well, that's pretty spectacular.
It's exactly.
Oh, we got to do that to get the whole thing in.
I think I hope I'm taking this, and I see my wife, and I'm panning slowly
I'm sorry.
over to my sister-in-law, who is smiling and looking very
We're
beautiful.
trying to decide whether to order spleen.
I am now moving over to my other sister-in-law, who gives a great big smile.
like that when I
And I'm, look at that, and don't they look?
In San Gimignano at Cumin Juarez.
Quibus?
Yes.
Quambus.
And one of the main appetizers, which we're on the fence about, is the mixed toasted bread with tomato, lard, liver, and spleen sauce. What do you think?
Go for the spleen.
Pray.
3 of those babies. Extra spleen, please.
All the spleen.
How did I do it? Come on. Oh, I took some.
Here.
It's.
Do you know how many trips we have in that camera that we've never seen?
That's why I didn't bring my other camera.
Well, it says smile on it. Have you seen this, sweetie? It actually
You
says
calling my
smile.
sister sweetie? It's the first day, honey.
Okay, now
It's a great day.
take the picture when we're ready.
Did you
Okay,
stop?
All right, Johnny,
Guys.
lean in.
that's the little thingamabob.
That's the
right.
lard.
Something up here?
Yeah, I would.
That's the little
Pick what looks
pie.
good to you.
How many salads?
One salad here, that's an insalata
Looks
mista.
beautiful.
I'll tell you what. Let me get a plate.
Grazie.
Ralph has the
It's easier if I
spleen.
get a plate now. I'm not pushing around.
I'm gonna go for the,
You go for that
Spleen
one.
and liver.
The spleen.
Okay. Looks good. Yum. Okay, we're back up in San Gimignano, just doing a little schmying, and
we're at the Piazza della Cisterna. The piazza is named for the cistern that is served by the old well standing in the center of the square. A clever system of pipes drain rainwater from the nearby rooftops
yeah.
into the underground cistern. The square has been the center of the town since the 9th century. Turn in a slow circle and observe the commotion of rustic yet proud facades crowding in a tight huddle around the well. Imagine this square in pilgrimage times, lined by inns and taverns for the town's guests. Now finger the grooves in the lip of the well and imagine generations of maids and children fetching water. We'll have to go up there. Each Thursday, the square fills with a market as it has for more than 1,000 years. The towers. Of the original 72 towers, only 14 survive. Before effective city walls were developed, rich people fortified their own homes with these towers. They provided a handy refuge when ruffians and rival city-states were sacking the town. These towers became a standard part of medieval skylines. Even after town walls were built, the towers continued to rise, now to fortify noble families feuding within a town, Montague and Capulet style. In the 14th century, San Gimignano's good times turned very bad. In the year 1300, about 13,000 people lived within the walls. Then in 1348, a 6-month plague decimated the population, leaving the once mighty town with barely 4,000 survivors.
See, if they would have passed Obamacare, they might have avoided it.
Once fiercely independent, now crushed and demoralized, San Gimignano came under Florence's control and was forced to tear down its towers. The Banca Toscana building occupies the remains of one such toppled tower.
Team and organization. That doesn't mean they actually were the ones.
Well, Captain Ralph is making chicken cacciatore tonight. And no trip to a foreign country is complete without a grocery store. We don't know say como se dice chicken broth. Not happy.
We're having a crisis here
I know.
as the dinner hinges on our ability to locate chicken broth. The
Where's-
fans are waiting in anticipation.
Mostly waiting because we have to
This
go.
seems to be vegetable broth. This may be the closest we get. I think it's better than using beef.
My theory is that it's all the same.
Vegetable, porcini.
Nothing approaching polo.
There's vegetable here. Carne.
You know, when you get home and look at this tape, you're going to see the chicken broth.
Right.
Carne. Classico. Vegetal.
I think the Classico.
What is in the Classico?
Buono Sconte. Did they have any spleen in the...
Here we are at San Galgano,
Is your finger on the
and we're just doing a tour of the people.
Finger.
What's very interesting is if you look up right now, you cannot see obviously anything, but right along that short, very narrow ledge is an electric wire that's there to keep pigeons from coming in. So what we hear is that rhythmic clicking sound. We thought it was water dropping, but it's actually an electric wire that keeps pigeons from entering the abbey itself. The abbey was hit by lightning in the 18th century, and the tower collapsed onto it and destroyed part of it, and they deconsecrated it back in the 18th century.
You forgot to mention that that wire in the 13th century was designed to keep the Florentines out as well.
This is Joel Taxel, who is providing a little bit of faux history here.
And there's the episode from Seinfeld when they're in...
But you've been to the Coliseum.
I think I saw the Coliseum.
This was the altar here.
That's different, the checkout here. They sit. I love to go to grocery stores. I love to go to grocery stores. Activity here in the kitchen. Madeline is helping out.
So I finished reading the great Gatsby. Did you? It is so good. It is one good book. Great. Now I'm boring.
Joey and Alan are decompressing from the day.
And the back was filled with flowers. So he was trying. Well, if you like art.
Ralph's making chicken cacciatore for dinner.
We have olive oil, I assume.
Okay,
What do you want me to do?
narrate.
Abbazia di San Galgano. We're all car sick.
It's my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, sister.
Today is your birthday.
Hey, what's that up there? Is that a thingamabob? Take a picture of the turtles.
I don't think so.
Is that just for hay? This stuff.
It's incredibly quiet and peaceful, and Paolo, our property manager, said we needed to come to visit this place, and I can see why. It's really off the beaten path, and it's beautiful, and here we go, and then after this we're going to Siena.
Take a picture of the turtles.
I don't think so.
Is that just for hay? This stuff.
It's incredibly quiet and peaceful, and Paolo, our property manager, said we needed to come to visit this place, and I can see why. It's really off the beaten path, and it's beautiful, and here we go, and then after this we're going to Siena.
Take a picture of the turtles.
I don't think so.
Is that just for hay? This stuff.
It's incredibly quiet and peaceful, and Paolo, our property manager, said we needed to come to visit this place, and I can see why. It's really off the beaten path, and it's beautiful, and here we go, and then after this we're going to Siena.
Joel, you and I would have a great time just spending like 6 weeks with Seinfeld.
No, we're going up to the... Buongiorno, Principessa.
Buongiorno.
Here we are having lunch at San Galgano.
Or having had lunch.
Having had lunch, there is the birthday girl, Madeline, sitting at the end of the table. Brother Joel. They were just exchanging stories about scars and memories of physical scars from youth. The delightful Claudia is
Let's see
reading.
both of your rings.
Let's see the ring. Look at that. Notice her new blue ring. Very, very
What did
fancy.
we have for lunch? We had, eggplant parmesan,
Eggplant
spinach.
parmigiana, the spinach. Here's Ellen telling the waitress, please divide it into 3.
And we're on our way to Siena.
I will be happy to. There's the bulldog hat.
Excellent driving husband has gotten us to Siena. And we are about to go meet our tour guide at the Duomo. It's kind of a very typical old Italian town. Narrow streets. This is kind of a little wider than many. On our way to meet our tour guide.
The first settlement. And this is the hill where we are going now, the oldest hill and the highest hill where there is the cathedral. That was also the first hill of Siena. Siena spread and became larger and more important during the Middle Ages, along the 1100 especially, and 1200, on other two hills, basically 1 and 2, in that direction, because it was crossed by a very important pilgrimage road, the so-called Via Francigena, that basically was the main communication road also linking Northern Europe to Rome. And there were a lot of people, of course, walking along that road and also using that road, on horseback, not only walking. So Siena became much more wealthy, let's say, after, being placed along this very strategical road. So the Piazza del Campo, the main square, is actually at the very, very center.
Very what?
Very center of the city. And Siena was an independent city-state, starting from the 1100 as well. It was a city-state surrounded by walls. We have more than one circle of walls. We have different circles now. The ones that you came with your car, through Porta San Marco, so one of the 8 gates opening on the 7 kilometers of the medieval walls around Siena, and they were built between the 14th century and the 15th century, those walls. So that is 8 gates. Some, kind of humble and simple, also like Porta San Marco, after all, is not extremely,
It seems like 8 gates would make you vulnerable from attack from with so many openings.
Really, there were also others that have been, patched, how do you say?
Well, this is, of course, the spectacular cathedral, or Duomo. Impossible to do justice to it.
You just documented your filmmaking.
And the original plan centuries ago was to extend the cathedral all the way out here. But in the 1300s, Siena was devastated by a plague where 2/3 of the population died. And so they had to, of course, abandon the plans. There are those guys again. Poor Schuster is having a hard time.
Cathedral. And they are, all the cathedral here, anyway, they were dedicated still this as well to the Assumption of the Virgin Mary, Santa Maria Assunta. And you see, it's very, very elaborate, and even inside you will see that it's extremely rich and ornate. And this was actually built, the facade, in 2 different times.
We are inside the Duomo in Siena, so Costanza. These were medallions, these were gifts, Thanksgiving gifts given by wealthy people in honor of the Virgin Mary. This is the chapel inside the Duomo in Siena. Beautiful, beautiful painting of the Virgin Mary, to whom Siena is dedicated.
And Bernini statues.
The Bernini statues. original design?
This is original, but it was made in 1546. So we don't know actually what was there before. You know, we've lost some of the tracks, let's say. We do have something very old that dates back to the origin, basically, of the church, which is this beautiful pulpit. Even if it was moved here in 1506, it was originally under the dome, so you imagine that it was more visible. And this was carved between 1265 and 1268 by Nicola Pisano, the father of Giovanni Pisano that we mentioned already for the facade. And his son also, when he was very young, worked with his father here. And this was actually made using Carrara marble, which usually is very white, but after so many centuries of smoke of the candles, you have this creamy color, which is really nice. And this is something very innovative, because Nicola Pisano was the one who invented the pulpit as a monument in itself, on a round base, not leaned against the wall like they used to be until then. And he made something similar, but a little bit more simple, previously, a pulpit which is in the baptistry in Pisa. And the people from Siena wanted to have something similar to that. They have also, you behave like the virtues which are above the capitals. Tell you, then you can understand the stories related to the Bible, the stories of the life of Jesus, which are represented in the parapet, these panels. And they're separated by angular figures that are beautiful, and they give continuity to the narration, so you don't have an empty space, basically. You have the crucifixion here very clearly. Even that iconography of Jesus is very innovative, because it was the first one, the first artist that made Jesus with the crossed legs and just one nail for the feet. He had done this also in Pisa in 1260. So a lot of painters also were basically making the same kind of crucifixion, and the good ones to his right and the bad ones to his left. And it's hard to see those two last panels from here now, but apparently when the pulpit was just under the dome, it was much more visible. And that was probably the main message that the people could get. And imagine that a lot of people couldn't understand the Mass in Latin, so they needed a help. And they could basically read all these stories, and learn about the Bible that way. That was very important.
And the eagle?
The eagle there, as a lector, has to be seen together with the other two animals and the angel. The four figures represent the four evangelists. So St. John the Evangelist is the eagle. Then you have the bull and the lions, St. Luke and St. Mark, and St. Matthew is represented by the angel. That is called tetramorpho in Italian, and that is how they represented in the past the four evangelists. But in the early Christian times, when you had to use a lot of symbols rather than the real people, let's say.
Well, it's just impossible to believe the details. This is in the library in the Siena Cathedral. How old are you?
69.
Today? L'chaim.
Thank you.
So
golf day.
here we are. We're back from a great day in Siena. And where did we start
And
out?
San Galgano.
In San Galgano.
Right there.
And we decided because we were all tired and we wanted to be back in San Gimignano for dinner, just a little something. We stopped at a deli at a grocery store and put together this little eggplant, salami, artichoke hearts, mozzarella, asparagus, peppers,
Red wine.
red wine and white wine,
and
vino.
white wine.
Some
Brand new
olives,
olive oil.
asparagus,
Brand new olive
olive oil, and on the stove,
Paper towels.
towels. On the stove we have, because this is not possibly enough, last night's kitchen cacciatore,
Last night's pesto.
last night's pesto,
And 2 nights.
whatever.
Tonight's pasta.
Yes,
Oh, that bread looks good.
that's a good birthday dinner. Well, it's hard to not start the day with another view from in front of our building. Crazy day. Woke up this morning, Ralph looked at his watch and it was 10 after 10. We said, that can't be. Looked at my watch and indeed it was. So now, here we go. Today's our Florence day. We're not getting out of here until 10 to 12, so much for scheduling. Due to the excellent driving of my husband and navigating of Alan, we've made it to the train station.
This is the Piazza Stazione. I bet it's right over there.
We're trying to figure out,
It's over here.
asking directions.
Right there.
What are we looking for, Alan, and why?
We're looking for the place where we return the tickets.
For the museum, our museum pass.
Right over on the other side of the street.
Everybody's responsible for their own spouse. Hi. Okay.
Wednesday, and we are in the middle of Florence. We are reconnoitering, trying to figure out where we can get our passes stamped, and then we plan to head to the Uffizi Gallery to try to infuse ourselves with culture.
We've done a fair.
Yeah.
Pardon?
We have to eat at some point.
Yeah. We've done a lot of circling around here, you know, in the same spot. I think what we're trying to do is figure out where to get our museum passes stamped. So we can go.
And we lost Ralph and Alan.
And we've lost the dynamic duo.
We give it at least another 10 minutes before panic sets in.
What you are about to see is a reenactment.
Sweetie, your vest is on inside. Confounding the
Confounding the
pickpockets.
pickpockets. Joel Taxel comes up with a novel way to wear his Scott vest.
Wait a minute, there's nothing on the inside.
Oh my God, how can we steal?
Boy, that guy was goosing me, you know.
Well, it's 6:18. We made it out of the Uffizi. It's quite fantastic. This is a view of the Arno. Somebody sculling in the Arno, and that, of course, in the distance is the Ponte Vecchio. Everyone's quite tired, but pretty proud of ourselves that we saw so much. It's really it's overwhelming. Well, we're having a beautiful dinner at a,
Trattoria Cibrio.
and we chose it because,
Because it sounded interesting in photos.
see, and I'm hoping that the chef owner will come to visit because he was beyond charming.
Fabio. We'll show you a Fabio book.
We're not exactly sure what we're eating, but it looks wonderful. And there's Fabio's cookbooks on the wall. Very Tuscan. So we had a fabulous dinner, and now we are in some courtyard where we're totally out of demo, but this seems to be where the action is.
Let's start walking. Oh. Now where's Ralph?
Ralph went to the corner too. I saw a cab that was empty. It's only me, but only one. This is quite a little angry area here.
It's cool.
Hot little area, Susan.
We're out of demo.
Oh, little baby with
So we are now in Tripoli.
Near Montalcino.
You can talk, Matteo.
Yes, thank you.
This is Matteo, who is filming us.
The Garden of Cyprus, an UNESCO heritage site of Tuscany.
Molto
And-
bene.
So this used to, this
And
used
there,
to be a
the
forest?
town of Montalcino
Sì.
on the hill.
And you can't hear, but there are birds all around us. Listen.
And that ridge with all of the trees on the right. Very good. Bellissimo.
Point as a garden.
Yes, because he became a UNESCO heritage site thanks to the tourists came here, and they took many photos. Became famous on thanks to the web, World Wide Web, and is the one of 6 the UNESCO heritage sites in Tuscany are Florence downtown, Siena downtown, Pisa downtown, the Valdorcia area, whole area, the Pienza,
Pienza.
we will visit after lunch, and that.
And this is one of 6. Isn't that something?
Yes,
All the time.
it's gorgeous.
So they're that famous. They're that unusual to find that.
And if you write on Google Tuscany image, is in the first page. Right.
The area that's south of us in San Francisco, as you move down to they're known for their cypresses. In fact, there's a famous golf course that's called Cypress Point that's in Monterey.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of cypress trees down in the Monterey Peninsula. So it's maybe 75 miles, 100 kilometers south of San Francisco.
Yeah, but in Italy it's not so easy to find the cypress, only in Tuscany. It's,
Only in Tuscany.
Yes.
Point as a garden.
Yes, because he became a UNESCO heritage site thanks to the tourists came here, and they took many photos. Became famous on thanks to the web, World Wide Web, and is the one of 6 the UNESCO heritage sites in Tuscany are Florence downtown, Siena downtown, Pisa downtown, the Valdorcia area, whole area, the Pienza,
Pienza.
we will visit after lunch, and that.
And this is one of 6. Isn't that something?
Yes,
All the time.
it's gorgeous.
So they're that famous. They're that unusual to find that.
And if you write on Google Tuscany image, is in the first page. Right.
The area that's south south of us in San Francisco, as you move down to they're known for their cypresses. In fact, there's a famous golf course that's called Cypress Point that's in Monterey.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of cypress trees down in the Monterey Peninsula. So it's maybe 75 miles, 100 kilometers south of San Francisco.
Yeah, but in Italy it's not so easy to find the cypress. Only in Tuscany.
Only in Tuscany.
Yes.
Ora sono at Santa Giulia, which is
Adesso.
sì, which is the first stop.
With the subtitle under the video in Italian or in English language, if we speak in Italian.
Both. We like both.
Like a professional video. Discovery Channel.
Montalcino, Santa Giulia,
To wine tasting, to taste the
to
Brunello.
taste the Brunello. Mirella, who is the proprietor,
Yes, is the mother of the owner.
the mother of the owner.
Yes, and she will cook for you. Peachy.
Peachy.
Very good.
Peachy,
Peachy.
Con il ragù oggi l'ho fatti.
Ottimo.
Bene?
which is
Pesce con ragù.
ragu,
Ragu is meat sauce.
meat sauce.
Yes, sauce.
Italian cats. Not Jackie. I know, yes.
Different clones of Sangiovese, or is there pretty much one clone that everybody
No,
uses?
there are different clones of Sangiovese. We have just 5 hectares and we have 400 F9, 24, and we have three different clones. But it's not so different. But so probably the skin is bigger or smaller. And then it depends. So very important to me is not the clone of Sangiovese. Very important is the soil and the sun's position and the climate, microclimate, because Montalcino is a very small area. But Montalcino is the town on the top of the hill. Other side of the hill is in front of the sea. So microclimate is different from this side. In the soil there are a lot of stones, it's more rocky than this part. This part there is a mix of clay and sand. And so, to me, it's more important the soil and the climate than the clone. Clone is different, but it's not so important to me.
So is the growing season much different here than, for example, in Chianti Classica in the Chianti area?
Yes.
Is the season
Yes.
longer here? Or?
Usually they pick the grapes 2 weeks later than Montalcino. 10 days, 2 weeks later. Because we are it's not near to the sea, but so it's 60 kilometers from the sea. Chianti Classico is in the middle of Tuscany, so it's far to the sea. It's
warmer.
Yes.
So the grapes mature more quickly.
Yes.
Here you have a longer
Yes.
growing season.
Yes.
You can taste it in the wines. Can you? I know that there are Chianti makers that are now using entirely Sangiovese.
Yeah.
They can, right? Use all Sangiovese now.
Yes,
if
they
want.
can, but the difference is that we must use Sangiovese and they can. Usually Chianti Classico is a blend. Probably there is a small part of something else, but there is in the 90% of Chianti Classico there is 10% of Cabernet Merlot or something else. Brunello is 100% Sangiovese.
You can taste the difference, of course.
Yes.
I mean, they talk about Montalcinos as
When you select the bunches, the first selection is on July, 7th of August, the grapes are not ready. So it's impossible to use for table wine or something.
Peachy al ragù. Facciamo peachy al ragù.
Usually 99% of grapes in the harvest are good because we make selection before. Because in Montalcino too, someone start to make the business very, with the tomato or the bread.
Yes.
I like olive oil. Okay. So the first wine is the Rosso di Montalcino, is the young brother of the Brunello. Okay, it's a Sangiovese, but it's aged just for 10 months in the Brunello.
You can probably tell just by looking at the wine.
Okay,
Let me know when we're ready.
I'm ready.
We're here at Santa Giulia. We're tasting 3 of their wines. The one in the middle, which you notice there's nothing left of, is the Rosso. The Rosso is their youngest, made from young grapes.
See?
It's the most accessible. It's a 2010.
See?
Delicious. The next is a 2007 Brunello di Montalcino. This is a very serious wine, aged in oak, Slavonian oak for 3 years, and then in a bottle for another year. So it wasn't even released until 2012, and
It's all gone.
what can you say? The far left is the same wine, Brunello, from 2006.
Ah, Brunello.
And it's a, it smells younger. It's,
I thought so. Yet precocious.
it's what I said was a tougher wine, not as much fruit. But Gianluca says that this is the wine that over time will become the better of the two.
See.
Better than 2007, and frankly, the more I taste it, the better I like it. 100% Sangiovese.
And on the table, we've killed the pasta pico, and I was like, thinking
Prosciutto?
perhaps I could ask for more, but there's a whole.
Prosciutto.
Oh my goodness. Ah. Oh, magnifico.
Show this. This is salami made from the head and neck of a pig called the The pig is the Ciunetta pig or something. It's a black and white pig.
I of course thought we were finished.
Made by Gianluca's father.
See.
All of this is made by Gianluca's father.
Fantastico. Grazie mille.
And by
Mirella.
Not to be confused with Cinderella.
Sorry, not speak English.
Sì.
Okay.
Sorry, no speak Italiano. Gorgeous. Grazie.
Molto bene.
Can I...
We just had a
We are in the heart of the Valdorcia. It's probably one of the most nice place of the Tuscany. It's in my opinion, but can you confirm?
Ah, bellissima.
And there is a wind today. It's not a good day. It's not a good day. It's not good weather. But
Very beautiful. Very quiet.
yes.
Many bed and breakfasts, hotels. Not hotel, bed and breakfast.
And over there,
See,
Pienza.
Pienza.
Now we are going there.
Okay, so we are now in Pienza.
Set on the crest and surrounded by green rolling hills. The small town of Pienza packs a lot of Renaissance punch. In the 1400s, locally born Pius II, or Pienza, of the Piccolomini family decided to remodel his birthplace in the style that was all the rage, Renaissance. Propelled by papal clout, the town of Corsignano was transformed in only 5 years into a jewel of Renaissance architecture. It was renamed Pienza after Pope Pius II.
Hence, Pienza.
Pius Sexenza. The plan was to remodel the entire town, but work ended in 1464 when both the Pope and his architect died. Their vision, which you see today, was completed a century later. The architectural focal point is the square Piazza Pio II, or II, surrounded by the Duomo and the Pope's family residence Palazzo Piccolomini. While Piazza Pio II is Pienza's pride and joy, the entire town, a mix of old stonework, potted plants, and grand views, is fun to explore, especially with a camera or sketchpad in hand. You can walk every lane in the tiny town in a few minutes.
Gotta be.
Nearly every shop sells the town's specialty, pecorino cheese. This pungent sheep's cheese is available fresh or aged and sometimes contains other ingredients such as truffles or peppers. Look on menus for warm pecorino, often topped with honey or pears or served with bread, along with a glass of local wine. This just might lead you to a new understanding of La Dolce Vita.
Oh, great. This is the town in Pienza. We have to have really great squatting ability to use the facilities, if you know what I mean. Whew, you gotta really go and bring your own tissues. That was very coarse. Here we are.
Destroyed in 1944, and opened up again in 1955. Restored in 1955.
Let's see what's here. So this is the town of Pienza on a cloudy day. Very typical walled, narrow streets. This is just off a side street in Pienza.
Try to zoom in. See if you can zoom in on one of those houses in the distance.
Just gorgeous. Lonely country. Maurizio? Who's our driver?
Matteo.
Matteo. Oy, oy, oy. Matteo. Matteo dropped us off for 45 minutes to show me around town. Pienza. We're in Pienza. Not much left of the cathedral. Bellissima.
I think I see Heathcliff.
See, and Kathy.
Is that the church? I think that's the church in the
Which?
distance, the Gladiator Church.
Ah, we passed on
Right
the
there.
way.
It's right there in the distance.
Well, we might as well call it that.
No, it is. It is. We came in from this way, so
See?
we passed right by it.
Matteo said we passed the church where they filmed the gladiator scene
At the end,
at the end
as he's dying.
as he's dying. E morte. We are outside the town of Montepulciano. See? And Matteo stopped to show us this church, which is fabulous, but we don't know if we can get in. We'll try.
And OPA, we found out, is an abbreviation. O, the P is abbreviation for PER, so it spells opera, and it means produced by, or made by, or under the direction of a certain builder.
See? Well, I guess this is all looking pretty much the same, but it's pretty fabulous. If I take the lens cover off, we are outside Montepulciano, and we stopped to look at this church, but doesn't seem to be any way to get in. So boring when we get home, but here it is anyway. The cypress trees. I lost my husband. Dark in here, but now we are in Montepulciano. And these are
Vats.
Vats.
So it's fermentation tanks. They're fermentation tanks. And interestingly, even though we're in Montepulciano, 4 of them say Chianti on them. Which means they must be making wine that's going to be bottled as Chianti under their label. And then one here is the Nobile di Montepulciano, which is what we're here for. So it's mostly Sangiovese. I think they have to use 80% Sangiovese, and the other 20% can be anything else. Just the same with Chianti. Here behind us is what's called Rosso Montepulciano, which is a simpler, not as complex Rosso of Montepulciano. You make also a Chianti?
Yes, because we are in the district of Chianti.
So you
But
can
we
make a
produce
Chianti.
Chianti Colli Senesi. Because in this area we are just on the hills all around Siena.
So it can't be, it's not a Chianti Classico. It's
No,
not-
Chianti Classico is possible to produce only in very too little area in between Siena and Florence. Then we have a lot of different kinds of Chianti. Chianti Classico, Chianti Rufina, Chianti Colli Senesi, Chianti Colli Fiorentini, Chianti Colli Aretini, Chianti Colli Pisani, and just Chianti.
You didn't put your brakes on.
Well, here we are convening at the end of a day where Sibs and spouses kind of separated.
What? Say that again?
I said we're at the end of the day where Sibs and spouses kind of separated.
Uh-huh.
And so, y'all,
Y'all? Oh, we met somebody from Texas A&M.
Texas A&M.
yes.
We
We
got
went
his,
up and showed him the hats.
Saw the bulldog.
and he gave us his card.
See?
They were best friends.
They were
He
like,
welcomed
Joel,
us.
he offered Joel a job at Texas, when he heard that Joel was now retired, said, and when he thought, we need you, he's already got a job for.
And any time he came to Texas, his house was this white little house on the corner, and all you had to do was knock on the door.
You did?
Come right.
It's
And
kind
then
of
actually going through the streets, I
College
had,
Station.
when it was raining, because it started to rain when we were leaving
in Florence.
in Florence.
Fiorenza.
And
All right, somebody.
so I had my hat on, and she looked to be like
As a college.
like a college student. And she saw me sit, oh, go dogs!
The universal language.
I'll tell you, a lot of Southerners in this area. So the group from Texas A&M
See?
was a
band.
No, a specific band.
Brass band?
No,
Wind.
wind instruments, and they were on a tour. They were playing in Rome, Florence, Venice, and one other place
Someplace they had
for
4
2
months.
weeks, and they were touring the Accademia. So we saw all these TAM hats all over the place, kids,
Bueno.
and
Nothing says Renaissance like Texas A&M.
and so and we then saw this guy who was wearing a bag that had a Texas A&M Aggies or whatever there.
So I went up to him and flashed my hat.
Is that true? I thought
And
you
there
saw
was
you.
about
Oh, no, no.
2 seconds pause.
It took him a while to
No,
figure out that
I had
it
my
wasn't an
hat
Italian
attached
jacket.
to the vest, and I just lifted it up and showed it to him, and it was an
That was it.
instant.
The rest was
instant commune.
It was love at first sight. And he was a retired major general,
Lieutenant General.
Lieutenant one.
and
just
he
looked
was
at his
also,
card.
what was he, a dean of something?
Student Affairs.
Student affairs.
I just read his card, that's why I'm
Right, well, that's all
so
right.
up on this.
You're allowed to remember from earlier.
Have you
No,
ever
I
been in
can't
College
remember.
Station,
And,
Texas?
And I hope,
No, but I have a
The
dear
pits.
friend who.
And he said
I
the
hope
kids,
not to be in College Station, Texas.
right, and he said the kids were pretty nice, or they were pretty.
Straight.
Not wild, yeah.
That's very straight.
36 years in the service.
Is that what he said?
And he thanked us for our service.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
What, our service to what?
Well, because
whatever.
Joel was a
Oh,
professor.
professor, right, you're right. Yeah, I didn't know what the rest of us did. You just knew that Joe was.
Well, seriously though, David is beyond words.
Yeah.
Truly,
This was your first time seeing David?
I think yes, the first time seeing the real thing, as opposed to the one that's in the.
In the
It's
square.
outdoors.
It's just stunning.
Yeah. Well, he's pretty good.
Right up there with Beethoven's Ninth.
I would say that's a
in terms of
good
creative
comparison.
genius.
And after the academy, well, you paid $7 for a Coke,
What was before
and you went to
that?
see
times four.
Fra Angelica.
Before
No,
that
that was
first.
first.
That was first.
Then we went to the Accademia, and from the Accademia, we went to the Medici
Chapel.
Chapel.
Good day, and it rained some.
A little bit.
Not bad.
Not
Mainly
bad.
rained.
Oh,
wait a
after
second,
the-
honey.
Only one time we were actually.
You have to
in-
show.
Oh, the scarf.
Have a show.
Show and tell?
Okay, but do I do it right now?
No.
No.
I bought the scarf.
We went back to Ponte
For the wedding
Vecchio and they
party.
bought
Quanto?
gold.
I
Quanto?
actually bought 7 because Joel said I should buy one for myself, but I didn't tell him that I'd already counted myself in the 6. So I now have 2.
How much were they?
40
Four.
euros a piece, and they're lovely.
Great. Be lovely.
Come on, show.
I'll send you
show,
a picture.
Show. No, show.
Show.
Tomorrow morning.
Oh, have we rethought tomorrow yet?
No, we haven't talked about tomorrow. We're still working on today.
And here, is this the platter that we brought home?
Yes.
it is.
And I just saw the
Oh, this is in the ugly American
No,
school.
it's not.
It's not.
Delicious salami.
Well, it says in the books you don't ask for a doggy bag, but we had a
Ooh.
phenomenal lunch at a beautiful family vineyard, and I just said, I'm traveling with my sister and brother. Could we bring a little bit of that home? And so the mama packed this for us, and this was just one of the food stops along the way of our day.
Had this wonderful lunch, and they're getting ready to take the food away, and Miss Doggy Bag here,
I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed
she
about.
was so thrilled, so complimented when Susan said, my family is back at the villa.
Starving.
She almost gave their whole refrigerator to Susan.
She heard
almost
it.
slaughtered a pig for Susan.
Those look delicious.
Yes.
Was your tour guide good?
You have a way with
He
me,
was very
Susie.
good. His English was passable. He struggled, but he was very good, very patient. Told us a lot of this wonderful lunch, and they're getting ready to take the food away, and Miss Doggy Bag here,
I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed
she
about.
was so thrilled, so complimented when Susan said, my family is back at the villa.
Starving.
She almost gave their whole refrigerator to Susan.
She heard
almost
it.
slaughtered a pig for Susan.
Those look delicious.
Yes.
Was your tour guide good?
You have a way with
He
me,
was very
Susie.
good. His English was passable. He struggled, but he was very good, very patient. Told us a lot.
Go ahead.
La familia.
La familia.
Health, happiness, la familia.
Lucky me to be in this
Yeah.
family.
And lucky for us to
And
have
lucky
you.
for us to
Lucky.
and another beautiful meal because we haven't eaten in 20 minutes
This is the Annunziata.
by Rosa.
Annunziata, is that what they say?
Well, I'm not sure what day it is today, but I am told it is our last day. And we can't leave without showing you the villa version of a dryer. This is old American ingenuity. The washing machine runs for about 3 hours and there's no dry cycle. And their idea of a dryer is, I guess, this, or hanging outside, which since it's pouring this morning really wouldn't work. It's kind of a quiet morning. It was huge amounts of wine consumed by the Wojcik yesterday, since we went to 2 wineries, ate enormous amounts of food, came back just in time for dinner where there was more wine and more enormous amounts of food. It was kind of a funky night last night. So the Jacobsons are staying home today to recover.
And look at the boots, because we're looking for new shoes for
Look.
kinky boots.
Totally. And we're about to navigate our way to Lucca.
Good Luca.
Good Lucca. Gray day. Threatening clouds. Here we go. Okay, we are now in the center of Lucca. That is the tourist information building. It's a very gloomy day. It's a park. Just waiting for the kids to get back. We figured out how the parking works here. Got a parking spot. You have to put coins in. Not a big deal. Here they come. So we're gonna have time just for about a nice little lunch, and then we'll be meeting up with our tour guide. It takes about an hour and a half to get here from San Gimignano. Very pleasant ride through the countryside. Well, it just goes to show sometimes you can just fall into a restaurant on the main drag and have an absolutely delightful lunch. We're about to head off and meet the tour director.
A very modest restaurant, but delightful.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Bene.
It's not really the end of the world, but what you don't know, we don't eat the buccellato early in the morning. Does not go with the cappuccino, and it's not a breakfast. You have to cut the slices and put them in the red dry wine. Like red wine from our hills. If you have nothing else, also a Chianti from Florence or Siena. The other very, very old cake is this one with the green filling, because it's the green color is given by spinach, but it's a sweet thing. It's a cake, and there are raisins and pine nuts inside as a topping very frequently, and it is it's medieval. the recipe is medieval, and it is something strange. Obviously, now as you can see, they modernized the thing they make with chocolate or cream.
Is that chocolate?
This is chocolate, and that is cream with the raisins too. But the original is the green one.
Look at
This
them
is
in
the
the
old,
back with
the
all
medieval.
of it. The four different.
Smells or the different smells. And it is called by us torta coi becchi, are the little points all around, becchi, and this is the torta di verdura coi becchi. So vegetables, cake. But it is sweet, huh?
This is chocolate.
Chocolate.
Oh, that's chocolate. Oh,
It's chocolate.
That is chocolate.
Yes. I don't know if it's really the most
So this is
handsome man, but
Puccini.
really the most famous.
It's certainly a
Giacomo
great
Puccini.
statue.
Giacomo was born in the right house with the bricks on the other side of the street. At the second floor, there is still today a little Puccini museum. And it was his destiny, he was born there 1858. And was his destiny to become musician because in his family we are musicians from 5 generations. The father was teacher in the music school of the town. In that age, the first son had just to repeat the same work the father couldn't choose, had to become musician. At the beginning, he didn't like music, not so much. He had to become the director of the music chapel of the town and then pass the examination. And then he went to Milan to study music more and he originally came with his operas like Manon, Tosca.
Most famous citizen.
St. Michele Michael's Church. This is the richness with the silk in the 12th century. We don't like absolutely the name of the architectonical style of this church because it's an example of the so-called Pisa Romanesque style. A few words about this style here.
What is the name of this again?
Pisa Romanesque style.
And
Even the
name of
people of
church?
Pisa, St. Michael's. Archangel Michael is standing there. And people of Pisa made something good in 2000 years. One good thing, they made it. They changed the classical Romanesque style. Classical Romanesque style has round arches, but it's very simple, not decorated. You can still round arches. These are not pointed arches. This is not the Gothic style, but it's full of decorations. You can see these stripes, gray-white, a contrast, and these blend arcades and rows of columns. Pisa was a maritime republic. In the Middle Age, they had a lot of contacts with the Crusades, with the Arabian culture.
How close to the water?
Now, in the Roman age,
No. You said Maritime Republic?
20, maybe 15 miles, 20 kilometers to the water.
to the water, 20 kilometers to the beach. And where
Something
was I?
strange.
And so
Second level.
they changed, so with this Arabian influence, they make the change. And I told you the truth. We copied the style from Pisa, but we made it better in Lucca. Even look at our colors. Every color is differently decorated.
Yes, that's what's so usual.
We are
Everything is
more
different. Look
creative
at
here in
that.
Lucca.
Every column is different.
It's different. You can see 4 rows of columns. On the top is standing the Archangel Michael defeating the Drake. The statue is fast 4 meters high, but they constructed all the church to give us the impression to see a bigger church than it is. Behind the last 3 rows of columns, it's standing no church. It's standing only the facade. And now we came directly in front of the church because we went behind Puccini's monument. But the pilgrims in the Middle Age
See
were
that? You can
coming
look right
from the
through it.
corner.
It's just a facade.
From the corner, and we'll go there now. From the corner, you have the best view over the square. But when you are in the corner, you don't see the church constructed in the center, but only at one side.
And when did they start building this?
In the 12th century. Yes, this was the law. Women had no rights, as always, but all the men paying taxes, they had the right to choose. To be chosen were the members of the most important families of the town, not the first man walking on the street. But for the age, it was relatively democratic. In our parliament was chosen the governor. Was governor of the town only for 6 months. But as long as was governor, from the moment he was chosen for the following 6 months, he had to remain there inside. Couldn't exit the palace, couldn't leave the palace, and have no more any contacts with his family or friends.
Why?
Like in a prison, he had only to work, and then after 6 months, another one was chosen. And I always say we have to do just the same thing today here in Italy with our politicians. Close them very well without guards and would be better for all of Italy. But I told you no names.
We can guess.
Was that,
Okay,
was that to protect him? Was it to protect him? He had to say
No, they had not to be corrupted. They
Not
had
to be
have
corrupted.
any
I
contact
see,
with everybody. No, they couldn't communicate. They heard the problems. They had to decide. They had to manage the money of the republic, but they couldn't meet. And do you understand? It was only 6 months long.
Yeah.
Another one was chosen. Perhaps after 6 months, he wanted also to go back to the family and friends. So not like today that we have politicians from 50 years at the same, sitting on the same chair for the eternity. And so I think it was good, also well made. Okay, the persons which wanted to make the palace even bigger and nicer was Napoleon's sister. Do you prefer to remain in the shade?
This feels great.
Okay, because as she came here, you understand, the poor woman, she needed a little apartment in the center of the town. She made her palace bigger and she was living there inside. She wanted to let the air and the sun and the light come through her windows. But horrible for her, in that age, was standing here the second biggest and highest church of the town, St. Peter's Church. And it made too much shadow.
Oh,
What did she do?
Had it torn down?
Yes.
She tore the church down?
Tore
She
the
tore
church
down
down.
everything just to have the white square plant that with trees in front of our facade. The sycamore trees are 200 years old. They were planted by Napoleon's sister. She gave the name to the square, which is still today called Piazza Napoleone. No. Then after a few years, when Napoleon was defeated, she had to leave the town and quickly. Then came the other lady, Maria Luisa Borbone, and was a resident. And she liked the square, but wanted for herself and the son the monument in the center, so we could look at it every day. The cathedral, this is St. Martin's Church. The first man who wanted to construct the most important church of the town, the cathedral, was a bishop who made a brilliant career and became known as a pope with the name Alexander II. It was a long time ago. It was the 11th century. Then in the following centuries, they decided to make this church bigger, nicer, higher, longer, and it was reconstructed. And you can see it easily with the architectonical style, because this facade outside is from the 12th century, in the same style of St. Michael's Church, this Pisa Romanesque style, with the columns of Lucca differently decorated. Now we'll enter it, you'll see inside is more Gothic, altars date back to the 16th century, everything is mixed. And after so big work, this facade remained incomplete, because this style needs 4 rows of columns, and we can see only 3 rows. So here something is missing, the 4th row or the top. You can see the statue of St. Martin's riding the horse with the beggar. This is a modern copy, the original piece is inside, but there it was standing alone during all the centuries. Other statues were never completed. The bell tower too was ended later using another kind of stone made by white marble, the top. So it has 2 different colors, but it's standing straight. Was well constructed and both from the 17th century. And you can see the typical garden, Italian style, geometrical, symmetrical, fountain, statues, lemon trees. And we can see the garden because now we are here on the city walls. From the street we had seen nothing.
And this is a private home?
It's a private home. Paying the ticket you can visit the garden, few rooms of the palace, not the entire building because it is owned by this private family. Some of them are still living there inside. And now we have a view over the garden, but there are the trees. You see everywhere in the town, so there are more gardens, but we don't see them from the street. And if you come now with me under the trees there, from there we have a very good view without climbing the edge. It's for children. Okay, so this is the 3rd city wall from the 16th and 17th century. This is the most beautiful city wall of Europe. The city wall is 12 meters high, 30 meters wide, and 4 kilometers long. It is covered outside by million bricks, 30 meters wide, and 4 kilometers long. Covered by million bricks, has 11 ramparts all around the town, and at the beginning of the 19th century was changed in the green area, green avenue of the town by Maria Luisa Borbone. Now you can just ride the bike or go on foot. Until today, all the town is surrounded by these green fields. Once there was no grass, there was water. This was the moat. So 35 meters wide. All the town was surrounded by water, like a little island. We had the cannons. We can still places for cannons in front of us, and not
How
too.
deep was the moat?
Huh?
How deep was
Was not deep. Little more than 1 meter deep. The water was coming from our Serchio River, which is now flowing in the line, perhaps 400 meters far away from here. Was a canal just to bring the water here to the town, and we had the cannons to protect. You see, the cannons were shooting in our direction. Obviously, just the bolts of the cannon couldn't reach here. Would not be so practical, intelligent. But so it was protected this side of the city walls from that cannons. 1799, the Austrians, they have stolen our cannons. These Austrians from Austria, the traitors, came here like friends. They told us they wanted to protect us against Napoleon. You understand? In that age, Austria was a big might.
Right.
Look at little republic. We were happy. We gave them our cannons to be protected by the armies. What did they do? As they saw that Napoleon was coming, they went back home quickly with our cannons, which I never seen again. At the end, when Napoleon came here, there was standing the city wall, and there were no more cannons on it. So we opened the city gate, put the red carpet in front of him, and gave him the welcome, the gloves. This was the right word. For this reason, the city wall is still standing. And I was asked about this, the defense system. Do you see this? There are like the point of an arrow here, all around. It is earth. It is like put there all around. This was the first defense. The moat was here. It was not so deep, but it was obviously like marshes. The enemies couldn't approach with the heavy cars, also engines. They had to remain 35 meters far away there. But from that side, they could perhaps shoot our city walls with their cannons. They couldn't. There was just in the middle these points of earth, so from the other side they couldn't shoot perfectly straight, or their bolts would have gone inside the earth. It was a little higher than that. They had to shoot a little higher, not to take with their bolts the earth. But for this reason, the wall is not so high, only 12 meters high. Their bolts could pass the city wall, and perhaps they could destroy the palaces inside the town, but the city walls remained standing.
But how could they defend the entire wall around the whole city?
Also, imagine, you have the water, and here you have the cannons. Or the cannons shoot you in this way, by every round.
So those are all around.
Yes. So,
You know, Anna, I don't see the logic because the walls are supposed to protect the town.
yes.
If the walls get damaged, so what? Why didn't they build higher walls to protect the town?
No, because it was not important. If you destroy all the houses, obviously the walls of the other square, as you saw from outside in the Middle Age, they filled with the bricks the Roman arches, and they obtained apartments using the old Roman amphitheater. Practical and cheap in our good style of look, but just for this reason, the original elliptical shape of the amphitheater.
So this was the
This was the amphitheater, and
The amphitheater.
Then, at the beginning of the 19th century, the architect Nottolini wanted to change the square to make it the market square. Look at what did he do? At the ground floor, he put all the shops. Tried, but only tried to equalize all the like the oldest building highness is the one. So now it's symmetrical but asymmetrical. It's one of the nicest squares.
It's
We organize a
beautiful.
lot of events. The flower market, you came too late. At the end of April, we have 3 or 4 days long flower market on the square. In summer, we organize concerts in open air because there's a good acoustic. Obviously, in the Roman age, all the level of the town was deeper. And now the amphitheater is going past 3 meters deep in the soil. In the Middle Age it was used as a prison, but the rooms were already underground, without light. So it was called the grottos of Lucca was bad. But now they are living here inside well. So inside are modernized, the apartments. Only from outside they remain old. So you can believe me, it's expensive to hire an apartment here. Not the popular apartments for the poor families of the town. Not exactly here on the square. Even if they look so, so rustical or so.
Do they limit what colors they can paint?
No, you can choose it. So you can choose
You
just
want it
between
red,
two
you can do
tones.
red if you
No,
want.
no. If you want to paint, you have to have the permit. You go and say, I have to paint my house. Then they are coming to you with 2 or 3 different not colors. The same colors, yellow, You can choose by 1, 2, 3 yellows.
Shade.
But must they say the color? You can just choose the hue. How can I say?
The hue.
Yes,
hue.
yeah.
The shade.
The shade
The
of yellow.
shade,
The
yes,
shade of
the sh-
yellow.
Yes.
So you couldn't do pink.
No.
So in the,
That
Colosseum,
inside.
in the
Like Nantucket.
Coliseum, they had gladiators.
They had gladiators. This was the entrance. Well, now you can see the houses. This was the entrance. There were the steps. So the sitting places are for the crowd. Huh? And it is so. It was the steps were so wide, like today the apartments, because outside you have seen the gate. So they entered here, and where now you can see the houses. They were sitting obviously the crowd, the people, and here there was the sand. This was the arena, and was just a place where these battles between the gladiators or animals they were located, just here in the middle.
Debut on
Here on primetime television.
With your finger in front of the lens.
No,
Yes, it is.
no.
Well, it sort of doesn't really seem right to be taking a picture of our room when we're leaving. And it's a mess. But here's where we've lived for the last week. Hard to believe the week has come and gone. Here's our little bathroom with our toilet paper that we had to buy, our soap that we had to buy, shower that sometimes didn't have cold water. But it was just a fabulous week. Madeline and Joel have already gone. The living room that we really didn't ever sit in the first day we came. We sat in the little living room. Going across, we were lucky we had an extra bedroom because it came in handy for hanging the laundry when we couldn't dry anything. And this was the extra bedroom, which was a good thing for showering. Madeline and Alan's room. I wonder what that is over there. Better check. Right on time. Buongiorno. Here's where we had many happy dinners. Lots of huevos, the strangest coffee makers in the world. Okay.
Does anybody know whether this was something that...
Well, we never did get to play ping pong or pool. We talked a great deal last night about what our next trip would be. Madeline said on horseback riding, dude ranchy. Trusty car. Okay. Ciao. Well, we made it to the Florence train station. We're going to see if we can get on an earlier train. No, this is not the entire train's luggage. This is just us. Why do you suppose these other people are waiting?
Connections, more complicated travel. Who knows? We asked and she said, yep, you can get a ticket to Rome. We would have to go to the thing if we wanted to change.
So, pretty much at the end of our journey, in true Taxel fashion, we're here hours ahead. Joey and Claudia will be leaving very shortly. Ralph and I will probably hang around the airport, no, the train station for a few hours. instead of schlepping around, or I feel a little nervous checking our bags here even. Arrivederci, Fiorenza. Well, how about this? Just checking into our room in Naples. Absolutely wonderful. Oh my. There's that American again, sitting out on the terrace, stepping down. And this is our terrace view. Buonasera, Naples. What a wonderful. Not bad. Happy anniversary, darling.
Happy anniversary, love. Happy 23rd. Or as they say, Tre Bienta. Good morning. We're here in Naples about to depart for Pompeii and Herculaneum. And I think that must be our bus. This is our bus?
We had a quiet evening last night. We kind of both crashed and burned. Had a simple dinner in Naples on the water.
And so we're on this 8-hour trip to visit the famous excavation at Herculaneum of Vesuvius that erupted in AD 79. Destroyed the town of Herculaneum in Pompeii. Looks like it's about 20 miles away or so. We're right now waiting for our tour guide.
It's about 8:30 in the morning.
We have, it looks like 2 Americans who are with us.
It's yours? No. Is it yours or not? No. He was saying a whole different route.
So we're having a little technical difficulty with the air conditioner on our bus. So they've dropped us off at the port to kill 20 minutes while hopefully they fix the air conditioner. Naples is a major cruise center. We've passed many cruise ships.
Big one is not a problem. They're going to introduce you everything about the tradition of the cameos, and we're going to see also how the master is doing on the seashell. And after the explanation, don't forget that downstairs at the end of the showroom, on the left there are the toilets, the bathrooms. Okay, I give you a meeting point. Now is 9:49, 9:50. Okay, the meeting point.
We've just spent some time in the cameo factory. Very interesting. Didn't buy anything, a little bit overwhelming.
Where are you going? Yes, I know, but in the afternoon, what do you have after Pompeii?
Kind of an ugly day, but a nice guy.
44 on the map. In front of you, there's the large theater used for Greek tragedies and Greek comedies. Next to the large theater, there's the small theater. Later, I show you the small theater. It was used to sing for the musical performances, because there's a very good acoustics inside today too. And this was once the place where people were able to walk during the interacts of the performances. Until the famous earthquake in '62, because after the earthquake, this place became the gladiators' barrack. We say in Italian, caserma. Casa means house. In fact, the archaeologists discovered here many bedrooms for the gladiators, cubicula in Latin, in front of us. Caserma, army, weapons. Here in the jails there were a lot of weapons which are now in the Archaeological Museum in Naples. And always here the archaeologists discovered 18th skeletons of the gladiators and of the gladiators' lovers. Layout used to simplify the orientation. There are wide main roads with direction east-west and narrow streets with direction north-south. A kind of a chessboard. Same layout nowadays in New York, but it's a Greek layout. 20,000 people lived here before the eruption, but every day, because of the port, imagine many people in the city. Like in a modern city today, here there was a lot of traffic. In fact, have a look right in the middle on the street. It's possible to see the original wheel tracks, the tracks of the wheels of the chariots. And always on the street there are these 3 stones. We call them stepping stones. Pedestrian crossing, zebra crossing, used by them to cross the streets. They used this system to cross because here in Pompeii there wasn't a real sewer system, just in some points close to the main square. That's why imagine the sewage on the street. They didn't want to get wet their feet, that's why they thought to invent this system to cross. And they also built downhill roads. In this way the sewage went out outside the gate down there. And have a look at the shape of the street, like the back of a mule. In this way the water, the rainwater too, flew on both sides and not in the middle of the street. Okay? Have a look at the wheel tracks. The wheels had the standard measure. In the middle, the wheels. On both sides, the animals. The animals were mules, donkeys, the horses too, but once the horses were smaller, like a donkey today. And the modern railway track has the same measure of the Pompeian chariots. Pompeian chariots because it was for them a good business. When the others came here, they had to rent a Pompeian chariot because of the measure.
Here we have a penis, is what it is. That's a good luck sign, not to be confused with other possible interpretations, but it was common in Pompeii over doorways and shops as a sign of good luck.
This is the Frigidarium. They had a series of baths, either starting or ending with cold, but everybody bathed all the time here.
Now the area of the prostitutes, or the lupas, as they were called. And they were mostly for the poorer people, not for the rich, because the rich would have their own private slaves. So the particular brothel that we're going into had 10 rooms, 5 upstairs and 5 downstairs. The upstairs were quieter, I suppose, and therefore more expensive than the lower ones. They would have a stone bed with a wool mattress, and that's where the lovemaking took place. The most interesting thing is that because the prostitutes themselves came from other countries and the sailors themselves from other countries, language was a problem. So the way in which the Johns, the men, would point out what they wanted to do with the women was to point on the wall, and they have these murals showing different positions like the Kama Sutra.
A menu.
A menu, like a menu. And so the men would point to a position, and that's what they wanted the women to do.
And the birth control?
Birth control, the women used a piece of wool with vinegar in the vagina, and the men used intestine from a goat. So rather primitive birth control, but I guess it must have worked to some extent. We have entirely too little of ma femme, and we want to make sure that we capture her.
Standing outside the brothel, of course.
Yeah, standing outside the brothel. So here she is in her adorable red Scott vest, which she's modeling. And notice the shoes, the navy dress, red, white, and blue. A good American.
The sun is coming out. It's going to be a great day. We're about to go into the brothel. And this is the hospitality area, or waiting room.
The waiting room where the animals, they had sort of a fast food thing where people would eat, and they would have a place for the animals.